Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I'm going to talk about how I am working in my Lent journal. So I had a request to kind of talk about how I'm working in my Lent journal, and since we are now going into day 4 of Lent, I decided to go ahead and show you what I've got set up for the first 3 days, and talk to you about basically where I'm going with this. So first of all, I basically have 2 books here. You'll see this. I'll walk through this towards the end, or just kind of talk to you about some ideas for what pieces are in here could go into my Lent journal, but I'm really going to be focusing on my Franken planner. So this is set up as a Franken planner, a transformer planner actually, and my faith section is in my personal section, which is one of 5 sections that I have, and the faith section is in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and flip to this section and kind of show you what I've got in here. So just to kind of again talk to you about what I've been doing, the Lent journal has been something I've just kind of put together as a continuation of my entire study plan for the entire year. And so I pretty much just picked up where I ended with some of my journaling, and then decided to start using these pages as my Lent journal. And I'm focusing in Lent on a couple of things. So I went ahead and put some stickers down. I think you can see that right there. It says Lent. But these pages are the guided journal pages, which I talked about in a previous video, and I'll link that so you can see that in the description. But what I decided to do is basically use the weekly pages, and then the pages that were the not double-sided pages. So the pages that were basically the dot grid on one side and then the daily prompt on the other. And I talk about in the previous video why I made that decision, so you can watch that to kind of see how or why I do that. But I basically have all of those pages stuck in here for right now. This is my February Franken planner, but it will just kind of roll over into March, and I actually need to set up March really quickly, but because that's coming up soon. But it's going to roll over into March as well, so I'll just use it until I am done with the Lenten season. And just to again start off with, basically I started off with this page that has Lent, and that I pretty much just kept it at that. And then I decided to set up the very first week. So this is week 1. It will be week 1 of, I believe, 7. And so what I do here is basically this section has practicing spiritual disciplines, and what I've decided to do is focus on 3 of these each week. Now, and so one of the things that I am using as a reference for these spiritual disciplines is a verse of some sort. And so this is the verse for this week. It's Matthew 6, 1 through 18. And it talks about these 3 items of almsgiving, prayer, and fasting. And I haven't marked all of these, but basically I go through and start it on Wednesday and just mark when I complete these 3 things. Right here it says, of course, I will focus on my new Lenten journal. And then I have a memory verse. I've written this, I wrote this on Wednesday, but basically I'll write it at the beginning on Monday and just come back here every week and try to memorize this verse. So this one is Matthew 6:8, which is, do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. And so I put that here just to have a verse for the week. And so this has actually been, to me, the most helpful part of putting the Lent journal together. I've never really actually tracked, I think, some of the spiritual disciplines. Of course, I try to read my Bible, but some of the things that are beyond that, I haven't really tracked. So that's here. So just to talk about these 3 that I've selected, almsgiving, I'm really thinking about time, money, energy, volunteering, charity, donations, financial support, those types of things. I haven't done that this week, but I do plan to tomorrow, Sunday, to I tried to do this last year as well, find a charity that is supporting the efforts in Ukraine, and since it is the 1-year anniversary for the Russia-Ukraine war, I wanted to donate and try to find some kind of charity that's helping in that area, so that way the families, the women and children, especially, but just families in that area can get financial support for what they need. And especially with it being a year out, they had immediate needs last year, but now it's dragging on, and so there's some probably long-term needs that a charity could really help to kind of fill in the gaps for that. So that's what I'm going to do with that. Prayer, of course, I think that's self-explanatory. And then fasting. For me, this Lenten season, I've decided to go on a sugar fast. So it's sweets and basically simple sugars. And I'm also trying to reduce fruit sugars as well. I'm not really focusing on carbs per se, but mostly just sugars and sweeteners. So stevias and all those types of things. I've noticed in the first couple of days, or like the past 3 days, that like I've really been craving like sweet things, like sweet drinks. So this is definitely like a plus for me. I really need to do this. I'm also like a very heavy coffee drinker, but I tend to sweeten my coffee quite a bit. And so now like moving back into like drinking it without sugars in it is like, it's a good reminder every time I take a sip of coffee that, you know, that there's a sacrifice here that's occurring. So that has been like, I think, really beneficial for me. So with that being said, what I'm doing with the other pages, not the weekly pages, but the other pages, again, it's set up, let me just show you again. It's set up with a dot grid on this side, and then this page on the other side. And so what I've been doing is basically just like alternating between like doing some like creative note taking and then just using the page itself. All right. And so this was the very first day. This was Wednesday, the 22nd, Ash Wednesday. I forgot to mention, but basically I'm doing like basically 4 Bible plans at this point. So I'm doing basically 2 that are podcasts and 2 that are reading through the Bible. 1 podcast and 1 of the reading plans are reading through the Bible in a year. The other podcast is a Catholic catechism, like reading through the Catholic catechism in a year, which I don't identify as Catholic anymore, but my family is Catholic, and I'm reading it just to be able to learn about like a different faith actually. So it was the faith I was raised in, and it's actually been really interesting to like hear the perspective of like how the Catholic Church presents their own catechism, their own like teachings. So that's been really interesting. So again, like one podcast is the Catholic catechism, and the other podcast is like the Bible in a year. And then I'm reading through 2 Bible plans. So one Bible plan is a Bible in a year. It's just a different order in terms of like how the chapters are laid out. And then the other Bible plan is reading through the New Testament in a year. And so those 4 plans, basically I listen to 2 and read through 2. And so what I do is, depending on the day, like this was the very first day, I decided to like read through, and like whatever caught my ear or like caught my eye when I was reading through it or listening through it, I would journal about it. And so this was, as an example, this was the focus of like the Catholic Catechism. It was really talking about man in paradise, and the idea of like how before the fall, Adam and Eve, well, it's really talking about like Adam and Eve and like their time in the garden and like what actually happened there and how did like sin enter into the world. And so I thought it was really interesting, and I wrote out some things related to that. And so that's there. Now, one of the things that I do, and I've done it for the past few days, is make sure that I'm making note of like what I'm reading through on all of the plans that I'm going through. So for day 53, which is the day that Ash Wednesday fell on this year, I was reading Numbers 3, Deuteronomy 3, Psalm 53 and 87, and then I was reading Galatians 6. And so that kind of like correlates with pretty much not this entire thing, but basically all the plans that I'm reading. Okay, and then of course I have like my prayers, my prayer time, things like that, so I can incorporate some of those things as well. But really, this journal is really my chance to kind of write out some of my thoughts on the Bible plans themselves. Right, and so this is day 2 right here. And so this was again Thursday, the 23rd. And so this right here, I had these 2 scriptures. And of course, I listened to and read through my 4 Bible plans as well. But these were the ones that really caught my attention. And so they were not. Psalm 54 was actually from one of the Bible plans, but Romans 1 was like a whole separate thing. And I just found that as like as I was listening to and reading through these 4 Bible plans, it just sounded like one that like connected to what we were listening through in at least one of the Bible plans. And so I wrote out some things related to that, like right here, like Jesus being the new Adam, Adam being the one who introduced sin, and then Jesus being the one who like is redeeming us. So I put all that here. And then again, on this side, I am trying to use the prompts here. So it says scripture for today, today's prayers. I'm seeing God's hand in. Today, I'm finding hope in. What's a symbol of joy I experienced today? And then list 3 blessings today. So I'm just using that. And I forgot to include in here, but I did on day 3, basically color a page. And so for my 4 Bible plans, I basically turned it on like where it was like being narrated to me for the Bible plan. And then the 2 podcasts, of course, I'm listening to it anyway. And so I just listened to all 4 of them. And so I was coloring while I was doing that. And so one of the things that I have in like set up in a separate notebook, which I can just pull in as I need to, is basically this notebook of like all these different coloring pages. Now these coloring pages, again, I try to find one that like kind of correlates to like the readings, whatever chapters or verses that are like being read at that time, or like I can kind of like look forward in like the list of readings and just kind of pick one that I feel like might match or like be relevant to what I'm listening to that day or reading that day. But these coloring pages are all printables that I got from Inspired to Grace. Now, I did purchase the actual coloring books, so they were purchased from Amazon. I can link those in the description so you can see these. But they were like actual like 8.5 by 11 sheets, and they also sent as part of like the coloring book these like the actual coloring pages, but like in a PDF. And so I took those PDFs and just basically shrank it down to like 82% and just printed it out on paper so I could have it as like a classic size. And so I have that in here. I also have like just like random like journaling pages from other books with like coloring on it, and like, you know, just it's just like I have some mandalas in here, and then I have like a collection of like other like guided journals in here, which this second half I probably won't use at all, but I do have my coloring pages in here, and so I will pull from these pages as I need to be able to just kind of fill it in. And so basically that's how I'm doing it. Like the focus for me is basically the journaling. So I'm focusing, I am like able to color and like be creative in terms of like doing things like this, like what I consider like sketch notes or like visual notes. I'm not very good at sketch notes, but like just kind of like making things stand out and using pen instead of like using stickers or anything like that. But certainly I can use stickers in here if I wanted to. I just haven't gotten there yet, at least in the first 3 days. But this is just me just sketching it out, just writing, you know, like doing my lettering, not worrying so much about like making it perfect. You can see this box is like totally crooked, but that's totally okay. I'm doing this as I'm listening to and reading through these things. And then here I am able to sit down and read through everything, but then also like afterwards kind of jot down my thoughts and like answer these prompts. And so on the 3rd day, I basically was coloring while I was listening to the podcast and reading through the Bible app. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, the focus for me is to journal out like in the moment the things that I'm hearing, and so I'm treating it like basically it's a sermon that I'm hearing. It's just, you know, 4 different sermons that I'm hearing with commentary and things like that. So I'm just kind of taking my notes related to the readings and the chapters and the Bible verses that like kind of stick out to me, and just kind of going from there. So it has been working for the past few days. This is day 4. I haven't done my day 4, but like this is day 4, and so I'll continue doing this until I, you know, finish the Lenten season. And I have mentioned in the previous video related to the Lent journal that I might continue doing this if it is something that I find is beneficial to me, and so far it's been really good. So I might continue moving it into like basically the rest of 2023. Even if it's not the Lent season, I could just continue, of course, to like have time with God. So that's kind of how I'm setting up. I don't know if that was helpful or not, but that's just kind of how I have set it up right now for the first few days. It might change over time, but that's part of the fun too of like doing this like creative journaling, or like, you know, just using the materials that I have, but also being okay with like kind of free forming some of it. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, and until the next video, bye guys.